My name is Sunay von Solms, and I am gutted that I am sitting in front of a computer instead of sitting there in the room with all of you. I'm very sad, and I also apologize that I'm keeping you from Uzo by the Sea, so I will not be long. Yes, so my name is Sunay von Solms, and this is work done in collaboration with a few of my colleagues and part of a larger project. So this is actually a master's project. One of my master's students completed this work, but it is part of a larger project relating to cybersecurity in the water sector. So we've done a large project where we actually looked at the water sector in South Africa, and we looked at various aspects relating to cybersecurity, which included governance and policy and legislation and all of those type of stuff. But one part of it was related to cybersecurity knowledge, cybersecurity education and awareness, and so on. So this work stems from the cybersecurity education part of the larger project. So the title of this work is Cybersecurity Knowledge Requirements for Water Sector Employees. So we'll dig into what we've done a little bit later, but I just quickly want to give a little bit more background. Is that currently, when you look at the water and the wastewater infrastructure and facilities, it really falls into that space of critical infrastructure that is old legacy stuff that people are starting to connect to networks and remote operations and so on. So you're sitting with this awkward mesh of old and new, and nobody really knows who is in charge of what. That is really also what we found in South Africa, is that in the water sector, there's really not a lot of knowledge with regards to how to handle cybersecurity in this space. When you talk to them about security, they say yes, they look at security, they look at water security, that every municipality will have access to water, and water is being metered and monitored so that people are paying for water. So they look at that, is what security means to them. Security related to the cyber aspects of it is really foreign. So that is the background where we are coming from currently. It's not just in South Africa. I added some international headlines here as well, but in SA, we're really facing some of these major issues. Like I said, we have some old legacy stuff, the operational technology stuff. We've added IT technology to it. We've got old industrial control systems. We've now added smart PLCs and things that we can automate and control, and really the way that these technologies are connected to each other is really vulnerable to cybersecurity attacks. The way it is structured, but also in the people who manages these things. So there's a little summary. I think I've touched on all of it, but the practice of rollout in these technologies are really not great. People do not know what they are in charge of. It's that general myth of only IT people are in charge of cybersecurity. I'm running the PLCs or the SCADA systems or something else, and it's really not my job. The IT people will secure whatever needs to be secured. So there's really a poor cybersecurity practices in-house in some of these entities. And then looking more wider, cybersecurity, the South Africa really has poor cybercrime fighting capacity. We do not have enough professionals. There's a massive lack of cybersecurity awareness in-house, and that is what we'll talk about a little bit in this presentation. And also a lack of strong cybersecurity policy in the space of critical infrastructure. Like I said, when in general, it's starting to get better. We're starting to see some legislation, but in general, like I said, when we talk about security, they think, yeah, we need to keep the water secure, and all the other stuff kind of is not thought about. So what we really looked at is, even if, and let's say in this case, we didn't really look at the technology, we looked at the human keeping these things together, and really now what we're seeing is that these systems are really prone to be threatened due to the fact that the people in charge and managing these systems are not cyber secure in the way that they operate, or not cyber aware enough in order to make the system stronger. So that is the thing that we focused on in this research is, and I put this picture down just to say that we've looked at various things in a larger context. But if you look at one of those orange blocks in the right, it says education and training, which is really one of the aspects relating to making something cyber secure or resilient. And when we look at the water sector and looking at the factors to make it more resilient, we need to empower employees to understand cybersecurity vulnerabilities. We need to train them and make them understand the important role that they play, not only in securing themselves, but also in securing their organization. So what we set out to do is we really wanted to try and see what are the basic things, the real basic things that all employees should know. We are not looking at professionals, so you don't have to be working in the IT sector or with ICS or whatever the case may be. We were really looking at the basic general knowledge that would be required to promote cybersecurity and resilience within the water sector. So in general, when we started the study, we tried to look at the water sector, but it's really too specialized. So in general, and I will show you on the next slide, when we started looking at these things, we actually expanded our search more to the area of critical infrastructure. So although this study was done under the umbrella of water and wastewater infrastructure, it's really applicable, I think, to critical infrastructure in general. And when you see the results, you can see it's actually applicable to really most industries. So I just quickly want to touch on what we've done and how we did it. So we followed a systematic literature review where we looked at various databases, which include IEEE, Emerald, ProQuest, Wiley, all of these databases, and we had our certain search strings. As you can see on the right, we didn't really search for water and wastewater. We realized that it's really it's too narrow a search. So we looked at critical infrastructure as one of our search terms. So what we've done is we've received we collected a bulk of results. We removed the duplicates. I'm not going to go through the numbers, but we removed the duplicates. We looked at various high level things, if it's within a certain time frame, if it's in English, and we started also looking at some exclusion criteria, which is basically searching for key terms in the headings just to see if it is applicable or not. At the end, after the screening, we ended up, when we looked at eligibility, we actually ended up with about 30 nice full text papers which we read, where after we excluded 8 papers, we sat with 20 it should be, we excluded 9, sorry, there's an error, and we ended up with 21 papers. Just doing some backward referencing, looking at what these 21 papers reference, we actually found another 3 that we didn't pick up in the initial search, or we might have thrown out earlier in the wider searches. So at the end, we ended up with 23 papers. So looking at these 23 papers, we then looked basically, as you can see in these search terms, what is the cybersecurity knowledge or cybersecurity awareness or training which might be applicable in this context. So what we found is we took all of our papers, and as you can see the colored blocks at the bottom, there's 23 papers, and then we kind of divided everything they said is really important, all the challenges that is faced and things that employees should understand, and we identified basically top 8. This is not everything, not by any means, but these are things that was identified through the study as important things to look at. As you can see, the highest things related to cybersecurity breaches, social engineering, and ransomware. So those were the top ones. The ones following close by was malicious insiders, negligence, unauthorized access, stolen credentials, and those type of things. So these are the things that we said, okay, right. As a start, let's take these 8 challenges or knowledge areas as things that a general employee should be cognizant of. Let's not say a professional knowledge, but you must be aware of these things. Secondly, we've also, from these papers, we've also looked at mitigation methods. So did these papers talk about ways in how we can teach or inform or train the employees to understand these various challenges or threats. In general, people say you must do some training. It is cybersecurity skills and knowledge that must be provided and taught, and the employee must be trained in these types of things. So in general, then what we looked at is, okay, so how do we get how can we build a framework in a sense that these challenges and security training and awareness, how do we build this into some type of framework that we can provide to a municipality or a water sector that can make sense to them, to start guiding them on what a general employee should know. So what we had a look at, and basically we looked at our output. So what do we want to see? We want to build a cybersecurity more resilient organization, and that is not just, you can't only focus on an organizational level, you have to focus on the individual level as well. So we said, okay, we'll focus on cybersecure at an individual level and then also at an organizational level. The process that might be followed in order to get to that output, we must look at building cybersecurity skills and knowledge, building cybersecurity awareness, running cybersecurity training, and then obviously the inputs are the things that you look at, the type of threats, the type of challenges that we read about in these papers, which included cybersecurity breaches, social engineering, malicious insider attacks, ransomware, and so on. So these were the basic building blocks of our framework, and that's just how it was put together. And then we just extended it. So this is a little bit, I think, maybe too detailed to see on the slide, but basically, if you look at the bottom, you have an organizational level, that's the yellow block, and then you have the individual level, that's the blue block at the bottom. So at the organizational level, you see things like management support, inter-organizational knowledge sharing, awareness and training, policy, mentoring, those type of things. And then at the individual level, you see that employees need to be supported and to engage in continuous learning, knowledge sharing. They must share some responsibility with of cybersecurity within the organization. So generally, we try to at least provide a guideline of the building blocks of things that the individual and the organization have to look at. By any means, this is not everything, but this is a start. So I think what's really important in this slide is that you can't tell an employee to go and learn about something if there's no organizational context. So training somebody and supporting somebody in cybersecurity training is really important through contextualization and knowledge sharing, and really empowering the employees to understand why these things are important. Telling them to report a cyber attack because it's policy, might not really get you a far way, but if you start making them understand why reporting of attacks is really important, and why doing certain things or not doing certain things is really important in the context of the organization. That's really important. So yes, so we ended up with this initial model. This was done, like I said, in a master's study. This is the first phase, so we're still working on this. But in general, that was our model. Like I said, cybersecurity is not a silver bullet. It's just one piece. But what is really important, I think everybody will agree with me, and some of the previous speakers also talked about that, is the lack of cybersecurity knowledge and awareness is really one of the major causes. And it can really lead to some cyber incidents that could have been avoided. So cybersecurity awareness within a company is really important. And also when you start looking at cybersecurity culture and organization, it's really nicely mirrored in the knowledge and skills of its personnel. So when we look at this framework, we must really see it as a way in which your organization can support an employee to improve their cybersecurity knowledge and skills in order to build a better cybersecurity organization. So yeah, I think that is my story. Yes, in general, like I said, this is a very high level framework, and we really try to identify some of the main, let's just start somewhere, cyber threats that the employees in the water sector must be aware of, as well as the approaches that can be followed in order for the organization to build and to assist employees in building their cybersecurity knowledge and awareness. So employees that are aware of the vulnerabilities are likely to identify possible security risk and at least take appropriate action in the organization if they understand why they are doing certain things, why there's policy in place in these regarding these certain things. So that is really what we focused on. So we are in the process of expanding this model. We're trying to build a more theoretical framework based on feedback from specialists in the water industry through interviews. We've already gotten great feedback with focus groups and some case studies in South African water entities. So yeah, I think the idea is just for the finalized framework to guide the creation of instructional materials to educate personnel within the industry on how to just be a little bit more cyber aware in order to improve the general cybersecurity culture and the cybersecurity awareness level within the water sector. As I said, it is still very, very raw, and we are really just trying to build a basic knowledge of the employees, or to assist organizations in order to do that, in order to improve the basic cybersecurity knowledge of the employees across the sector. That is me. Yes, thank you very much.